Hi, this is Zena Harris.
And I'm Mark Rabin.
Welcome to the tie-in.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in and welcome to another installment of the tie-in. We're coming to you from all over. I guess Zena's coming from home, but I'm still on the road, still on my road trip. I've been actually in Palm Springs for the last couple of days.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, looking forward to telling you a little bit more about that. But how's everything going in your world?
Yeah, good, good. It's one of these where, spring, we mentioned it last week, it's here, and I spent most of the weekend out in my yard, like working, listening to an audiobook. So, um that's been fun. But I'm curious about your digital nomad experience as you've been on this road trip. How's it going?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a tourist, just to be clear here. As
Yeah,
I
no,
move
I mean, but
through
you've
the
been all over.
States. Yeah, so I've actually um I was in San Francisco visiting friends and checking stuff out there, some networking. And then I came down to Palm Springs here to visit our friends at Overdrive. They're
Oh,
setting up installations at Coachella.
uh-huh.
So yeah, so I popped in. So Coachella's not till um April 12th weekend, and then it's the 3 weekends in a row. There's Coachella and then there's Stagecoach. But the setup for the event itself takes like a month,
Oh,
up
right.
front or I actually visited with Ken Deans as well. He was our first person who we interviewed. He's kind of like the overseer of operations.
Yeah.
And so I went and spent a couple hours with him, cruising around, checking out all the activations, getting a lay of the land. Met up with Neil. Also, there's some cool other folks doing off-grid infrastructure. A guy named Sam Simmons, who's got this company called Site Six that's doing modular off-grid worksite trailers with full solar and batteries and so on. And also this afternoon, I'm going back to talk to a guy named Andrea Gini, who is actually doing the entire Coachella power assessment.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go interview him this afternoon for the tie-in. Yeah, it's just great. It's just great to see it. But it's also like, it's the calm before the storm. So, but people are there's a whole setup happening.
Yeah, yeah. And it is neat. It's neat to kind of see how, how it's all planned and how and then, see how it's executed once the festival starts up because it's rolling, it's live. It's there we go. That's super cool. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. And then also you and I are going to be together next week because we have LA Climate Week that and we're doing a session on April 8th.
Yeah,
So,
that's the phase two of the Southern California road trip.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
speak of
LA Climate
LA.
Week. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, LA Climate Week is going to be interesting. I mean, I was at the New York Climate Week,
Yeah.
and that was totally different animal. Here, this is going to be LA styles, LA vibes. Hopefully there'll be a bit more of an entertainment angle. I know we're taking that
Yeah.
angle. And I'm attending a few other different things going on that are more resiliency based.
Okay.
Obviously, I think the wildfires sparked a renewed interest in resiliency, and so
Mhm.
that's something I will be participating in.
Well, that's a cool thing about sort of this community organizing that they're doing for LA Climate Week is that lots of different climate related organizations on many different topics are are doing events or, sessions, whatever. And ours just happens to be entertainment focused. So it's the Creative Industries Opportunity Space at Lacey. So if you're in the
Mhm.
LA area, come by and see. There are several sessions going on that day. Starts at 10, so come on by. Yeah, just I think it's great to kind of get, I don't know, get, not that climate hasn't been in the minds of the folks in LA, but just, an opportunity to organize around that topic and see where folks are coming from and see how they're incorporating it into these various elements of work. So, yeah, super cool.
Totally. And there's a lot of yeah, sort of dual applications, I would say, like, where a lot of the gear for film production is actually sort of like clean mobile infrastructure, right?
Yeah,
Because film is inherently sort of like a traveling circus.
yeah.
And so, yeah, to have a lot of that gear be able to be redeployed is pretty cool. And a lot of these crews can mobilize fast and can, make things happen.
I know, I know. Also, we're at the Music Sustainability Alliance, or you will be. I'm
Mhm.
sadly going to miss it, but gosh, sounds like a great event, and that's
Yeah.
on April 15th. So
Yeah.
I'm
I'll be there doing some recording and just networking with all the, heavyweights in the industry.
yeah.
And then, but you're not going to be there because you're going to be at NAB, right?
Oh, leading up
Um,
to, yeah, leading up to LA Climate Week, I'm swinging through Las Vegas on the way because um I'm going to be in a panel session, and then there's an awards ceremony. So, that'll hopefully go well. And yeah, so pretty excited there um to I we this is kind of what kicked it off last year for us, is the NAB show, and where I interviewed Mary Jo Winkler, Io Freda, and then
mhm.
we got to reshare her interview on the podcast. And so it's kind of coming full circle, and I'll swing back by and participate there. So looking forward
Well,
to
what's the
that.
award? What's the award you're winning? That's what I want to know.
Sustainability Leadership Award, both for myself and
Okay.
Green Spark Group, my company. So,
Congrats.
hopefully that works out.
Oh, you haven't won it yet. It's kind of like
It's
you're
yeah,
you're
they're
one of
gonna
the
announce it.
contenders.
They're gonna announce it there.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay. Right. High stakes.
yeah, yeah. So I mean,
Anything can happen.
anything could happen. I mean, we'll let you guys know if I win for sure.
Yeah.
Look out for that.
But
Um,
you were there last year. I know Portable Electric was
Nominated.
nominated at one point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly. Did you guys win something last year?
No, I was there to interview Mary Jo,
Mm,
and then the Sustainable Entertainment Society did win nonprofit of the year or
okay.
whatever, and they did win. So like I was excited to cheer them on,
Yeah.
and Melanie Wendell was there to accept the award, so it was fun.
Yeah, Melanie. And Melanie's going to be at LA Climate Week on the
Yeah,
8th of April as well. So, Sustainable Entertainment Society.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. She's and her team have been doing a rock star job organizing and producing, basically producing the day. So I'm always impressed with what they can pull off. And like it was kind of short notice on this. Usually we have a longer runway to plan. Um, but yeah, they're doing a great job. I'm excited about this LA Climate Week session, and
Yeah.
it's
It,
like oversubscribed already, like so hopefully um everyone shows up and we'll get a good crowd, and we'll really try to rally around sustainability and entertainment. So
yeah, and it's taking place at the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator as well, Lacey.
right, Lacey downtown.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's going to be great. And I'm just excited to see how LA Climate Week unfolds. Like I said, my only other climate week sort of comparison is New York, right? And that was bonkers.
Hmm.
That was just like it was almost like South by Southwest, right? It was just like conferences upon conferences, and nestled within each other, and so in a city where you wouldn't even know that was going on, like.
Totally. Yeah.
And then there's San Francisco Climate Week coming up too, kind of middle of the month of April. So there's a lot of stuff happening,
It's
even though
yeah,
the whole world is, going through its own transition. So it's just an interesting time.
totally. I mean, so April is also Earth Month. So we've Earth
Mm.
Day.
Oh, yeah.
So lots of organizations are doing their Earth Day thing. And so, you know, there's a lot, yeah, a lot is happening. We are, continue to be on the road, traveling throughout April. So, um, yeah, I guess we'll give updates on where we are and what we're doing in the
Hmm.
next episodes and on social media and whatnot, because there's just always something going on. So
Totally,
kind of
yeah.
a
And
fun
I
time.
and as I've said in some of the other pods, yeah, hit me up if you want to get a hold of me. I'll be in LA until the 16th of April. So I'll be there hanging out. Yeah, just to also be meeting up with the Solar Punks
Oh
folks,
yeah,
Corey and Christina.
yeah.
So looking forward to jamming with them.
Anyway, okay, let's wrap this
Yeah,
up. Like come see us, get in touch. Mark's been
yeah,
on some hikes,
April. Yeah,
so
exactly.
hit him
And also
up.
in April 8th, right? I
Yeah.
know we were oversubscribed, but come check that out. Lots of stuff happening. Music Sustainability Alliance on April 15th.
Hmm.
I think there's probably still tickets
Oh
available.
yeah.
So come out to that. And just there's just so many things going on. And then Zena, good luck with the award. When do we know, when do we learn? When do we find
Oh,
out?
you'll probably learn. The ceremony's on the 7th, so you'll probably learn on the
Okay.
7th. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll keep our eyes out for that.
Yeah. Yeah. All
Cool.
right. Well, keep it up out there, folks, and talk to someone about sustainability or clean tech or however you want to say it.
Yeah.
Um,
Climate tech,
climate tech, like any and
new
all.
energy,
Yeah. Yeah.
efficiency, all of it.
All of it. Yeah. Let us know what you're up to and what traction you're making out there. We'd love to hear from you. Um, So, okay, like and subscribe. Don't forget to do that. Share with someone, and we really appreciate you listening.
All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the tie in. We're here at South by Southwest, day 3, I think. And we're also at Red Thread X House. So thank you, folks, for giving us this space here to have our interviews. Today, we're speaking with Michelle Lee. And she's a globally renowned climate champion, thought leader, and keynote speaker. She's the founder of Clever Carbon, where she and her team create hip and fun content to engage individuals on carbon footprint literacy. And Michelle launched her career in Silicon Valley, where she worked for some of the biggest names in tech, including Salesforce. She's also a proponent for making sustainability the new norm, which is interesting because that's what Zena and I are working on. We'll have lots to talk about. Michelle also organizes and hosts the Carbon Newbie Summit, with speakers from international organizations like MasterCard, Allbirds, National Basketball Association, and more, TEDx, South by Southwest, COP28, everything. Wow, there's a lot of stuff going on here, Michelle. Maybe you can like break it down, what you actually do, and and what excites you about this space.
Yeah. So the last time I measured my carbon footprint was in 2023. It was 35.7 tons annually, and it included my sort of business travel, which typically isn't included in a personal carbon footprint, but I wanted to for accountability's sake. And the average carbon footprint in the US is around 17 tons per person. In the UK, it's around 7.7.
Per
And
year?
per year. And Vietnam is 2.2. And this is what people consume. It's not what the countries manufacture. And that's really what we try to do at Clever Carbon is just give people numbers and help them understand the actual impact they're having because humans understand numbers, right? But like, let's say 20 years ago, I said to you, hey, like, soft drinks are bad. Just don't drink them. So what do people go and do? They drink 3 a day, right?
Yeah.
But then when you have the nutrition labels and then you can see that a soft drink has 40 grams of sugar, then what do people do? Well, they stop drinking soft drinks, most of them. Then we have new industries that start. We have got like kombucha, we have vitamin water, but even sort of like peripheral industries like Equinox, like Lululemon, like those things would not be possible if people can't measure their impact and understand what they're doing from a diet perspective. So we try and do all that, but for sustainability and a really hip and fun way, partnering with brands like the NBA, Mubadala in the UAE, and working with corporations also to train their employees on what is carbon footprint.
Mm-hmm. And is there also a cost associated with that footprint, or right now it's more just awareness to make informed decisions?
When you say cost, do you mean like offset?
Are you sort of showing them how much it costs to either offset, or is there an actual external cost to polluting that's integrated into your clever carbon program?
So I would say that we do show cost, but not in traditional manner of like money, right? The cost in terms of before the Industrial Revolution, when Christopher Columbus got to sail the ocean blue, that was like in the 1400s, we had no greenhouse gas emissions and the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere was 280 parts per million. Now we're at 427 parts per million, and experts say that if we surpass 450, we will surpass the Paris Agreement, the 1.5 degrees Celsius target. So from a cost perspective, all of us, as we are conducting activities that lead to greenhouse gas emissions, there is a cost, right? We're getting closer to that. So I would answer your question, Mark, by saying the cost of carbon in that perspective as opposed to like the monetary cost.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We spoke with Bradley Sherman yesterday, and we all agreed that we were well past the 1.5 degree.
We're like like a train wreck going. It's just it's not looking good. But I'm curious. I've heard my team focuses on training. People say, make your job a climate job, these sorts of things. How do you go into large companies and engage and get people excited about their carbon footprint?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Is it even possible?
Is it possible?
So because I come from the corporate world, I understand how things work from that perspective. So instead of pitching ESG teams, a lot of the times I reach out to HR because HR has a budget. They have an established budget. They have money to hire people to come in to speak. They have money to do activities with employees. And their job is to engage and, aid in retention, reduce attrition, et cetera. So this is a timely question because Earth Day is coming up, and I'm doing a bunch of workshops, some with some big tech companies out in Silicon Valley. So what I do to get people kind of fired up is I create little like assets, like not social media because they're internal, but normally when a company sends out a little workshop, it's like on, their own branding, and it's like, black font, and it's like kind of boring, right? So I know that because I used to work at these companies. So we have a really fun banner that we make and we customize. It's got all our fun, clever carbon bits. I don't know if you've ever seen our branding. You probably have, but for those listening to the podcast, it's essentially if Urban Outfitters were to teach people about carbon footprint, it would look like clever carbon. So it's really fun. So like they see this, right? And then they're all already like, oh, it's colorful. Like maybe it's not going to be drab and boring. And just this year, like I've been doing this for 4 years, but just this year I started recording myself and saying like, hey, XYZ tech company, like super excited to host you. If you want to find out what the Beatles, Taylor Swift, and the iPhone have in common with carbon footprint, come join me on XYZ date. So they're not necessarily like, oh, like these climate strategies, but just like, how do you engage people generally at the workplace? There's, different ways to do it.
Yeah. We talk like one of the things that we've kind of discussed and think needs to change a little bit is the way we message climate change, and everything associated, solutions, all of that. It's not like a drag to do, but like it's an opportunity space, and we've kind of gotten that wrong. So how do you approach it?
Thank you. I love that question because that's literally why we exist. So, a couple of things. One is the branding piece, right? I came from Salesforce. They are arguably the best marketers in the world. And I understand the power of branding. It has to look professional, it has to look a certain way, and it has to be consistent, right? Like even how thick your lines are around your icons, in design they call that the stroke, right? Like making sure all of those things are consistent so you look professional and you you look hip and fun, which is our ethos, is really important. But also you don't want to assume that just because people engage with your content that they want to reduce their carbon footprint or they care about the planet, because once they kind of sense that, they don't want to engage. So just because you go on a scale to find out how much you weigh doesn't mean you want to go on a diet. Sometimes you just want to find out how much you weigh. So when you come and find out your carbon footprint on our website, we don't assume that you want to reduce your carbon footprint. We assume that you want to learn more. So after you finish the quiz, it's like 2 minutes. You get your carbon footprint. You find out how you scored average to the average in your country. We have some resources like, hey, like interested in learning about like eating vegan, or you want to like learn about how you can reduce your energy at home. Here's some links that you can do, right? As opposed to saying like, don't eat meat, don't do this, don't fly, don't bolt. Like people don't want that. So we never assume that just because you find out your carbon footprint, you want to reduce. And we keep the messaging really positive, really fun, and really light.
And then how does that that training, I guess, that education and engagement piece, help the company go back into kind of their corporate goals, and what are they looking for there?
Yeah. I mean, so if you're in HR, right, you have a couple of things that you care about. There's like benefits, there's health, like physical health, there's mental health. Just a couple of weeks ago, DEI mattered. There have been some changes. But, companies just have these budgets and they need to spend them. They need to make sure that employees are engaged, that they're learning, right? Like learning benefits, et cetera. So when we come in, it's not that they're looking for a certain metric. We have some companies that are very established. They do these kind of surveys after the workshop to see like how useful they found it. Are they going to incorporate things after, which are great because then I get to learn some of the feedback and I get to see over time what that matters. But like they don't really care. Some of them are just checking boxes in a good way. It's not like they're checking boxes just to do it, but like, we did something for Earth Day. We're doing something for physical health, mental health, right? And they don't go, hey, like, did you go to the gym more often now that we, gave you this benefit? It's not really like that.
Yeah. Just to touch on the sort of the rolling back of the DEI stuff, do you feel that climate and climate awareness is being rolled into that sort of momentum to sort of undo, I guess, some of the work that's been done?
I can see how especially as we work in this space, how it would kind of feel like it's kind of rolled into that, together. Personally, I think that with the new administration, there are certain things that have now been set in motion that if you're a government contractor, you have to do this. You have to remove DE&I in your vernacular in your company. The same thing hasn't happened with climate yet.
Exactly.
People like even last year, even before the election, ESG has been getting a little bit, it's a little bit like touch and go and a little bit uncertain. But I think from a climate and sustainability perspective, companies know, companies care. Outside of the US, investors still really care. So they may be a little bit more quiet about it right now. I think US companies, companies that are like headquartered here, maybe do a little bit of business in Europe, they're going to be, it's going to be difficult to get budget. But if you're a European company, I don't think any of that has changed very much.
And same in Canada for the moment. ESG is a fully loaded thing thing that sort of like umbrella catches everything, which I think has done a little bit of a disservice to some of the climate work, that's the good work that's been done. And you're not seeing big companies completely flip flop, right? I mean, they're
I'm not.
they're on decade long trajectories right now. And look at the automotive industry, right? They're not just going to stop their EV production plans.
Yeah.
So I think it's, and I'm on the energy side as well. And these is a multi-100-year undertaking over time that we're going to be doing. So can't just like flip flop one day.
No, and it's the right thing to do, and it's becoming the more efficient way of doing business, like cheaper. So hopefully it'll continue.
Yeah, that's great. So in terms of your audience and so on, so are you predominantly working with the big companies now, or are you taking this outside to the general public?
Both. So our content is free. We put a lot of content out on social media. There's a lot on our website. So it's free. Personally, I find it easier to scale the content through the workshops and through corporations, right? Because then you've got one company to many employees, and then they're like sitting down for an hour. Whereas, if you're scrolling on social media, like we have to just really cut everything up, and then you're learning in bits and pieces. Sometimes you learn part 1 and part 5 and you miss, everything in between. So personally, I find it really effective to work with corporations to scale the information. But yeah, it's free content for everybody, and for corporations is how we actually make money as a company.
Right. So it's not a nonprofit, but you may have like a philanthropic arm that goes out to the public.
Yeah, and the reason why it's not a nonprofit is because nonprofits are actually really difficult to run. You have to have a board, you have to do certain types of reporting. If you want to be a 501c3, you have to comply with all these things. And at the end of the day, if you dissolve your company, none of the assets belong to you. So at that point, like a couple years ago when I was like, what should I incorporate it as? LLC was easy because you didn't need a board. And right now it's still mostly me. I have a couple of team members that have been, doing some part-time work with me for over a year now. But mostly it's just me. So yeah, LLC.
Yeah, makes total sense. So, as you've been doing this, I'm curious, on the sort of education innovation side of the house, what really gets people excited? What are those kind of innovative, ways of engagement, if you will, that really gets people excited about this topic?
Yeah. So two things come to mind, and it's not necessarily innovative, like that's new to climate. But for the workshop, for example, I need people to stay focused and interested for an hour. Typically it's remote, so I don't know if they like have their phone like looking at like this and then like looking past me into the screen. I have no idea. So what I did is I made it a game.
Okay.
So early on in the workshop, there's a memory game. And I have about like 12 different items with carbon footprints, like bottled water, a serving of, a potato, pork, like 12 different things. And I have a little YouTube counter that counts down 10 seconds. So, I have this slide that says, okay, we're going to play a game now. Like, you probably weren't expecting this. And then I'm like, hey, it's serious stuff. Like, I don't want you to come up to me later and say this was not serious, then I didn't warn you. Like, here's your warning. It is serious stuff. Obviously, I'm smiling, so they know I'm kind of joking.
Serious and fun.
Serious
right?
and fun.
Yeah.
And then they get 10 seconds to remember everything on the slide, and then we play a game. We play a multiple choice game. And so that really engages people and doesn't make it seem like a workshop. And then second of all, I think it's really just the branding aspect of it, right? And pulling in topics that people can relate to. Because if you talk about CO2 concentration and ppm, like maybe you immediately think of like Hawaii and like all the different sensors they have on the island to, publish the monthly CO2 ppm data, which is very dry, very boring. So how do we do it? We have a CO2 ppm timeline on our website. As you scroll, you see, okay, Christopher Columbus in 1400, when he sailed the ocean blue, it was 280 parts per million. Then in 1800, the first Olympics in Athens, it had already risen to 290 parts per million. So we have like the Beatles, when the Beatles formed, right? When the Titanic sank, when Taylor Swift was born, when the first iPhone was made. So it's relatable.
Right.
And then not necessarily an innovation, but also a marketing just strategy is after you finish our carbon footprint quiz, we ask you a couple questions. You can put your first name, and then you get a badge that has your name, your carbon footprint. You can download it. It's really fun. It's got some icons on it, comes in different colors. And it used to be Instagram like dimensions, but Instagram has changed their dimensions, which like has just complicated everyone's life. But people can post it to social media, right? And that's why the NBA partners with us, because we have this branding piece. So they have their own version of that badge the fans can download, can post to social media. Like one day we're gonna get the players to engage and get the players to like post and do that. So like it's marketing, it's innovative techniques to keep people engaged. And it's not new inventions, it's just bringing in that pop culture piece.
Well, a lot of the time too, going to events, the biggest footprint is the actual going to and from the event, travel and so on. That's exciting. Are there other large events then that you're working with like that? That's a really cool way to get out there.
We have done some conferences in the past. Last year we were at the All-Stars game, so our quiz was on the Jumbotron. It was on TV, and so that's pretty large scale.
Yeah,
but,
it is large scale.
You're a Jumbotron.
Yeah,
Kind of
exactly.
cool.
Jumbotron energy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I love this sort of intersection with gamification, and kind of making it fun, brand centric, that sort of thing. Where do you see this going? Like companies integrate this in, what's kind of the next step of for reduction? Where do people actually then take the next step for, okay, now I understand this, now what?
Yeah. So to answer that question, I'll just mention quickly that in the quiz, we ask, 4 simple questions. One is, how do you commute, right? Second is, how much do you fly? Like, how many hours approximately do you fly annually? The third question is about your diet, right? Are you vegan, vegetarian, equal opportunist, or carnivore? And the fourth is energy at home. Okay. So it's really that 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the emissions come from 20% of what you're actually doing in your life. So if you just kind of focus on those things, we can all collectively make a really huge difference. Personally, I point to diet first because it's actually something that we can control. Right. We eat 3 times a day. We get to pick what we eat. Whereas in the commute side, if you live in the suburbs, you don't get to pick if there's a bus stop near you. You don't get to pick how often it comes, those types of things. But food, food emissions account for almost 25% of global emissions. Steel and cement each collectively are around 10%. So food
is big.
is so big, and it's so
buildings.
easy. Buildings, energy usage in buildings as well. But again, those are really hard things to control.
Right. Yeah. Right. No, that makes total sense. I'm curious. We ask all of our guests this question. So, if you were to create a playbook of guiding principles for the work that you do, what would be first on the list?
For other companies or for just people in general?
However you want to take it, I guess, is,
Yeah.
It's really important for us to think about.
Well, maybe I'm not answering your question the most direct way, but I feel like making it approachable to the wider audience so that they actually want to engage with your content is so key. Like so many nonprofits, so many climate companies have important things to say, but if we say it in a way that is negative, like people just they won't engage. So keep it lighthearted, keep it hopeful, keep it optimistic, and also that education piece I think is really important. So that's why we focus on carbon footprint, right? These are numbers that are measured, they're facts, and imparting information and education, like educating individuals, I think is really powerful because, you know, not everyone needs to work in climate, but we have 8 billion people on this planet.
Right.
And if every person just knew one more thing about climate, we can collectively just even come up with better solutions at scale.
Yeah, and it's the little bits that we do
Yes.
every day.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's really important, we talk a lot about it here, is how we are communicating this, right? You're right, people just tune it out eventually if it doesn't affect their life directly.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's turned into a sort of a partisan issue, because the center left is not great has done a not great job of communicating like this, or they're over intellectualized, versus the right has done a great job of communicating from a fear-based, but also just like they're so good at hammering clear messaging.
Yeah.
Versus again, sort of center left has done a not great job. Do you have any thoughts on how we can make our communication more powerful and more sticky?
I think exactly what you just said, right? It's this clear communication. And I actually had the opportunity to attend a Republican communications like offsite
Cool.
for I think it was like press secretaries of senators, like Republican senators. So shout out to Crest Energy. They're a nonprofit. They focus on communicating and educating Republican policymakers, you know, senators on clean energy, advocating for clean energy among Republicans. And exactly what you said. They had like, we care about 3 things when it comes to energy. Now, this was a couple of years ago, so I'm not going to remember every single thing, but it's, you know, energy security. It's there. We want energy that's like there all the time, and energy that is going to be efficient when it comes to a cost perspective. We want low cost energy. I can't remember the third one, but it was like 3 things, very clear and cut.
Yeah. And everybody rallies behind that.
Right.
And that's what we're missing right now. Because I was trying to think the other day about, okay, what is a clear messaging campaign? It's like the recycling, right?
Yeah.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. That's the only thing that came to my head.
That's a good one. Yeah,
It's a great one.
Yeah. We don't do it really, but yeah, it's great.
It's taglines.
That's kind of like been the shtick for a while. Like that is what people know, and that's what people grew up with. That's what was in schools and all the stuff. So, it is really important to kind of get it out there, and we need to reframe how we're talking about some of this stuff, because it just it needs to be clear. We got to figure that out and brand it appropriately, which I think is what you're really focused on. So very good. Well, any parting thoughts? Anything that you'd like to share that we haven't talked about?
Well, I'm here at South by Southwest this year.
Yes.
It's my 3rd year.
Third, okay, good. This is our first.
Yeah. Oh, your
We're
first
excited.
year.
Yeah, I know.
Welcome. It's a great place to be, and I think that there's more and more climate content. But the first year I came, I talked about the future of brands and the role of carbon literacy. The second year, I brought a panel on marine carbon dioxide removal. So I moderated a panel among 3 experts. And this year, I'm here for a very important reason. We brought the topic of the Arctic
Oh,
to
yes.
South by Southwest.
I am going to that session because
Yes.
it sounds awesome. Yeah.
We also have an all-star panel.
I know.
Very, very seasoned experts. But just a couple of things that I can touch on.
Sure, yeah.
When it comes to the Arctic. I'm not an expert. I'm definitely learning. But, our sea ice is melting. There's a lot of problems around that. It affects the polar vortex, the jet streams, the mechanisms that are in place to essentially regulate our climate. And so now we're seeing very wonky weather patterns, right? But not only that, melting sea ice means that we're going to have new pathways that, countries and shipping industries can use to get goods from one place to another, but that's very disruptive to just sea ice and the Arctic landscape in general. There's going to be a race for resources, so deep sea mining. There's these special nodules underwater in the Arctic that have a lot of valuable minerals and metals. And also, melting permafrost. Permafrost has a lot of methane, which is a greenhouse gas that is, 25 times and more potent over a 100-year scale. Like over a 10-year scale, it's like, 100 times more potent. So we need to be talking about the Arctic. What happens in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic. That's the tagline.
It's a global problem. Yeah. So when is your session?
It is on Monday, tomorrow at 4 o'clock at the Hilton in Salon B.
Excellent. Great. Excellent. So if you are here at South by Southwest, go check it out. It is going to be a fabulous talk. I'm really excited about it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for sitting down and talking with us. This is really exciting work.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this work. This is amazing, getting the word out.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes. That's the thing right there.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah. Awesome.
Good job.
Thank you, Michelle.
Cool. Thank you.
So, Michelle, where can people find you on the internet? Different ways, different projects you're working on. If you want to let us know where we can look for that.
Yeah. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. So you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. I have my own website. It's Michelle Lee, li.co. So that kind of has all the different projects that I work on, because Clever Carbon is one of them, but I also have Women in Climate. And then we've got Instagram for our Clever Carbon, for Carbon Newbie Summit, which we also didn't have a chance to talk about. But yeah, we're on all the major social channels, even Blue Sky.
Okay, amazing.
Our designer is Aaliyah Kane. Music is by Peter Chapman. Our producer is Colin Miller.